The F1-75 livery launch event was a surprising success as far as out-of-season F1 events go. Expectations were low, with the feeling from the drivers before the event being akin to a child being dragged to the dentist. But with a crowd in good humor and Jack Whitehall knowing enough F1 inside jokes to come across as a Twitter-scrolling fan, it was worth a few hours of your Tuesday evening. With a couple of nice new liveries and a number of ones that were basically identical to last year, looking at you Red Bull, the main takeaway from the event was the overarching theme of disappointment and annoyance at the FIA. They were booed when mentioned, mocked by Gordon Ramsay, and the drivers had their say on the new swearing ban. Today, I'll check it all out, so don't go anywhere. The crowd at the F1 launch event were in full voice from the get-go last night in London, as Christian Horner was jeered by fans inside the O2 Arena as Red Bull unveiled their 2025 car livery. Max Verstappen received a similar welcome as the unsurprisingly partisan crowd backed the British drivers over those from abroad. However, the biggest boos of the night were reserved for the FIA. As Laura Winter tried to follow a scripted thank you to the FIA, the crowd reacted with a chorus of boos. Laura said the FIA has been instrumental in their efforts over the last 75 years to improve safety on track, and as the boos rang out, you could hear her doing her best to cover up a smirk at the response. Pirelli were thanked next for their work as the sports tyre manufacturer and were met with cheers, highlighting the boos for the FIA even more. The FIA president, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, sparked controversy recently by introducing new rules which would penalise the drivers for swearing or for criticising his organisation. F1's governing body codified punishments for swearing in the sports regulations, and last year, Verstappen had to undergo community service in Rwanda for using foul language in a press conference. Under the new FIA regulations, the first offence carries a £33,800 fine, a second offence a £67,600 fine and suspended 1-month suspension, and a third offence a £101,000 fine and a 1-month race ban. The definition of a breach of the new rule is the general use of language, written or verbal, gesture and/or sign that is offensive, insulting, coarse, rude or abusive, and might reasonably be expected or perceived to be coarse or rude or to cause offense, humiliation, or to be inappropriate, plus assaulting, such as elbowing, kicking, punching, hitting, etc., and the incitement to do any of the above. The rule also forbids the use of any words, deeds, or writings that have caused moral injury or loss to the FIA, its bodies, its members, or its executive officers, and more generally on the interest of motorsport and on the values defended by the FIA. So, any swearing or mean words said to other drivers can be punishable by race bans, which will have a direct impact upon the World Championship. But if any of the drivers raise concerns or issues with the new rules, then they could be banned anyway. The ridiculousness of the situation is clear to see, and at the first press event of the season, the drivers shared their disgust while treading very carefully. Max Verstappen did his best impression of Jose Mourinho in response to questioning about F1's controversial new swearing rules. For the Americans watching, that's the equivalent of Marshawn Lynch's infamous Super Bowl interview, where he spent a full 5.5 minutes saying, "I'm here so I won't get fined." When asked about the new regulations at the F1-75 live in London on Tuesday, the 4-time world champion opted for a phrase made famous by ex-Chelsea and Man United manager Jose Mourinho. "I prefer not to speak about that," he said, "otherwise I'll get in trouble." In a media session held moments later with members of the national press, Verstappen elaborated slightly. "If you look at everyone's reaction to it, I think that says enough. I think we shouldn't take it so seriously. I'm also not going to tell you how you should behave in life." Red Bull and Verstappen then chose to not give an interview when revealing their livery to the crowd at the F1-75 event, while every other team did. The message was clear: if the FIA were going to try and restrict what they can say, then they won't say anything at all. Before I talk more about what happened at the event and the response to the FIA's new rule, if you're enjoying the video and want to catch the rest of the news in the run-up to the 2025 F1 season, then please give the video a like and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot. So, in case you missed it, the first instance of a driver being fined under the new no swearing rules happened last week. Adrian Formeau, the Hyundai WRC star, became the first driver to be punished under the revised guidelines at last weekend's Rally Sweden, after he swore in a stage-end interview. Formeau was given a €10,000 fine with a further €20,000 suspended for 12 months, for admitting he had fucked up by forgetting to fasten his helmet ahead of a stage, forcing him to stop and lose valuable time as he resolved the issue with his headgear. Haas's Ollie Bearman, who will begin his rookie season at the Australian Grand Prix in March, also shared his annoyance at the new rules. "I certainly can't afford to swear, so that's a good start. But of course, it is a big topic of the off-season, this new rule that's come into play, and I'm sure we're going to find a way to make all parties happy and figure something out. It's nice to have a bit of say in what's going on with the GPDA. There's a lot of discussions going on about various topics, and it's nice to feel like we have a bit of a say in what's going on. Compared to what I'm used to in F2, that's a very big change. We're working hard to figure out a few things, and we're getting there." The GPDA that Bearman refers to is the Grand Prix Drivers Association, which was reformed in the wake of Roland Ratzenberger's death during qualifying at the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix, and it's a union for Formula One's drivers. They offer legal support, advocate for driver safety, and work as the voice of the drivers in disagreements with the FIA or Formula One management. While the FIA's rules may allow them to punish the drivers for speaking out, they cannot punish the GPDA, and therefore it's expected that the organization will be the tool the drivers use to fight back against the rule changes. Mercedes driver George Russell has served as a director for the GPDA since 2021 and also had his chance to speak with the media yesterday. While he is a director of the GPDA, what he says in public interviews comes from George the driver. Any official GPDA statements come from the organization themselves. The 27-year-old said, "It's going quite far. As drivers, we have to continue to show our personalities. We don't want to be in a bubble. That's pretty obvious. There is merit in saying you shouldn't swear in an environment like this, a news conference. But when it's not your first language, the first words you get taught are the swear words." Russell also said that for many drivers, with English not being their first language and how they learn the language impacts how they use it. Ultimately, especially for the guys for whom English isn't their first language, the first thing you get taught are the swear words. And the first thing Antonelli taught me in Italian were swear words. I don't really know, to be honest. I don't have much more to say on it than that. Sadly, the responses from all the drivers show the power the FIA have in this situation. The drivers can't just call out the FIA for the new rule, and they can't just offer expletive-filled responses to media questions. They have to be so careful because the threat of race bans is just too great. No driver wants their season to be ruined by a petty race ban. When the drivers do make a stand against this new rule, it will be through the GPDA, and hopefully it'll be heard by the FIA. The last time they made a stand, asking the FIA to treat the drivers as adults, they received no response from them. A disappointing, but perhaps unsurprising result. What do you think of the drivers' statements on the FIA's new rules? Do you see them getting overturned or revoked, or are we stuck with emotionless robots from now on? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you want to support the channel, make sure to check out our merch store at f1reverse.com for some sweet racing-inspired gear. Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.